Its leader sentenced to 8 months in prison. Its employees had lost their pension funds, and there wasn't even enough in the till to finish the few bikes they had already sold. Until not that long ago, the situation at Norton was genuinely bad. It wasn't that they couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, it's that the tunnel had completely caved in. And then an Indian giant arrived, TVS, ready to pick up the pieces of Norton and rebuild it from scratch. So what's the plan? Where are they headed? Did they buy the brand just to slap a Norton badge on TVS platforms? Today, we're telling the story of how India stepped in to save one of the great icons of European automotive history. Welcome to the resurrection of Norton.
Does it come with a subscription system? McDonald's does a hell lot of burgers too. Are they best in the world? I don't think so. So how is Norton going to benefit from TVS mass-producing bikes? And I assume the engine would come from TVS.
A company founded in Birmingham in 1898, one that started making bicycle parts, as many others back then, and by 1902 was already rolling in the first motorcycles. For decades, it was a synonym of British engineering, tourist trophy victories, and genuine innovation. The feather bed frame, the isoelastic mounts, the rotary engine. Norton was already always a brand that wasn't afraid to push boundaries. But the final few years under the Stuart Gardner administration were an absolute disaster. Gardner bought Norton in 2008, and in 2013 he did something that goes well beyond simple mismanagement. He purchased Donington Hall, a Gothic castle, and turned it into both Norton's headquarters officially and his own family home, more the latter than the headquarters. That same year, he set up 3 pension funds with 255 workers as members, and between 2012 and 2013, he transferred more than £11 million from those funds into the company. The money was spent in cryptocurrencies, cash withdrawals, and fees to be paid to those running the scheme. In 2020, Norton went into administration. In March 2022, Gardner was sentenced to 8 months in prison. The more than 200 victims took over a decade to get the money back. But life goes on, and where people see problems, others see an opportunity. It's 2020, the middle of a pandemic, and in that context, TVS announces the acquisition of Norton for less than £60 million. A bargain, I would say, although you will see there's a lot more money than that. The question was obvious. Will they take the brand to India and send us TVS platforms wearing Norton badges? What's going to stay in England? Let's start with what hurts the most when a brand collapses, the infrastructure. TVS didn't buy Norton to strip it down. They invested more than £200 million since the acquisition in model development, engineering, the dealer network, and the solid hull factory just south of Birmingham. That factory, by the way, it was just a distribution warehouse that TVS had on lease, and the architects had less than a year to turn it into a world-class manufacturing facility spanning more than 7,000 square meters. The result is a facility with their own quality lab, a climatic wind tunnel, and a production line capable of turning out 8,000 bikes a year. When TVS acquired Norton, there were only a handful of employees. Today, there are over 300. And that number keeps growing. More than 25% of that increase happened last year alone. This is how Brian Gillen, Norton's CTO, put it when we spoke to him during the presentation of the Manx R in Sevilla.
Oh, it's been really, really, really exciting. The interesting thing about Norton is it's not only building a bike, it's building platforms. So we're in at the same time we're building 3 new complete platforms of vehicles. We're building a factory and we're launching a brand. So it's much more than just making a bike. Right? And it's 3 powertrain platforms, 3 vehicle platforms.
So 3 powertrain platforms running in parallel. The third one announced, but we don't know the details really. To put the scale of the group behind all this into perspective, TVS manufactures over 6 million motorbikes a year, 15,000 bikes a day. These are the same people who built the 450 GS for BMW and have won multiple JD Power Quality Awards. So it's not a small company buying a pretty name. But a factory without the right team is nothing, and this is perhaps where Norton has made the smartest move. They've brought people from BMW, from Bentley, Formula One, and Triumph. Brian Gillen, for instance, the CTO, spent more than 15 years at AMV Agusta in Italy, where he was technical director and led the design studio. But they've also put a fair amount of trust in Norton's own tradition. Simon Skinner was Norton's very first employee in 2009, and literally day one with a mobile phone, a notebook, no desk, no chairs. And for global design strategy, they've brought in Gary McGovern as a consultant, the man behind visual language of Land Rover and Range Rover for decades.
Finding the talent, bringing the talent together, getting the talent to have a common vision, right? Because everybody comes in with their own interpretation, getting that common vision, understanding what the Nortonness is, and laying down the groundwork, getting the team to work as a team. Right, was challenging, but at the same time incredibly rewarding. And it's, as you said, it's very international.
But the team isn't just British. TVS has relocated some of the best engineers to Solihull, people who move over with their families to support the project. There are also 56 engineers in Bologna in Italy and a team at TVS's campus in Hosur in India.
And at the same time, it's a multinational because we have an engineering team in the UK with powertrain, chassis, electronics, concept, and body design, as well as an engineering team in Bologna. We have an engineering studio in Bologna with 56 engineers, as well as the engineering team in Hosur on the TVS campus, because we're part of the global TVS group, working in the same electronic architecture, working in the same environment, ecosystem, and we've got a 4.5 hour difference between them. So we can work more hours in the same day because the team in India is starting 4.5 hours early. The team in the UK is finishing 4.5 hours later. So the day is longer. So we can pick up work between the two teams and keep things progressing faster, right? Getting those digital teams together, getting the teams working is one unit is incredible. The team that we have in the UK, there's some incredible talent there. The team that we have in Bologna with their premium motorcycle design and engineering skills.
But before we get into what's under the bodywork, let's talk about what you actually see, because the Manx R turn heads way before you know a single thing about it. Simon Skinner, as I mentioned, has been with Norton since day one. He's designed every modern bike the brand has produced. And with the Manx R, he had one very clear idea from the start.
How do you come up with that?
Wow, yeah. So again, another story there. So in terms of the design itself, we are very modern, and we don't have the constraints of being a super bike that's homologated for racing. So because we don't have those constraints, we don't have those handcuffs, we can take a fresh look at that category of bike. So we're not going to race that bike, let's be honest. And so what we're doing now is something quite unique. So we talk about modernity and reductivity, and you see the bike, it doesn't even have bolts that are visible. You know, we take, let alone wings, we don't even have bolts on the bike that you can see.
The result, a clean surface, not a single visible bolt, no wings, no fuss. A bike that Simon describes as reductive, where elements are taken away rather than added. And he managed to get the engineering team to fully buy into that vision.
What the engineering did is they really bought into the vision and what we were trying to achieve with the design that supports the brand. And then they executed it beautifully. And it wasn't easy at all. But you know what? Not once did they turn around and say, Simon, come on, can we put some bolts here? They just didn't. They just did it. So they're making our dreams become a reality. We create the dream in design and they make it reality. So I've got an awful lot of time for the engineering department.
But it wasn't all plain sailing. Simon Design is about the fact that design always comes at a cost.
But the thing has to work. You know, a 50-mile range doesn't get you anywhere. And I've got this thing that said design isn't free. There's a cost. And that can be money, it can be time, it can be weight, it can be performance, it can be how difficult it is to manufacture or service. There's always a cost, and you have to have this balance all the time. And I think we've got this balance just right, because there's times where I've had to have a bit of a reality check from Brian and saying, Simon, you can't have an 8-litre fuel tank. As pretty as the bike is, you know. So those are the things where we've had to, or I've had to say, yeah, okay, for the good of the product, yes, you're right.
That silver, the trophy silver color, isn't an accident. It was taken directly from the 1951 Manx.
we talked last night, and we're talking about the TT times.
Yeah.
And you told me you were at the TT walking on the bikes personally. One thing you did not sign of those bikes in the TT was the look, right? That was not your choice. The silver polish.
Yeah.
Look.
So the shape of the bike, yes, was down to me,
but
not the paint finish. No, that was
finish.
the owner at the time. Yeah.
And yet you went with silver again this year with for the
silver, but not chrome. So the silver is very historic. So if you walk around the Motorcycle Museum in Birmingham, which is excellent, it really stands out. The colour scheme of Norton is very consistent throughout history. And the silver that you see on the bikes here, the trophy silver, was benchmarked from a 1951 Manx.
Okay.
So it's very authentic.
Okay.
So that is a brand colour. And we do lots of other colours and very vibrant and very modern, but the silver itself is very historic, and that's gives us some authenticity and that consistent thread.
Can I ask you, because when I saw the colors first, for me, it's you don't see them often because they are very like a pastel kind of look.
Yeah.
What was the decision making them? She went with silver. Do we have some desaturated greens and aqua?
It's so we go right back to the beginning, which is what does the brand stand for? And this is a journey here. And if you look at the history of Norton from the very first bike in 1902 all the way through, innovation is the key. Innovation is the common thread and the DNA within Norton. But innovation today isn't rotary engines, featherbed frames, that's or isoelastic engine mounts. It's other things. It's colour, materials, design, the way we engage the customer. It's electronics. It's other. Innovation means something different now. So we took a fresh look at how we paint the bikes. And we've got some very vibrant, very modern colours. So they're quite unique in the motorcycle industry, and the quality and the depth of the fit and the finish and the colour is quite unique to Norton. There's nothing else out there. And you don't really see it in the photographs until you're up close and you can touch and see it.
The pastel colors, they are unlike anything else in the segment. They don't really translate in photos. You have to see in person up close, and I promise you it's genuinely beautiful. And then there is a taillight that plays with a touch of 80s science fiction about it.
So one of the very senior people at TVS challenged and said, we need something very distinctive on the back of our bike, and because the bike's generally a little bit generic from the rear. And that was one of those areas of the bike that was inspiration, not perspiration. I literally sat down on a Saturday morning, sketched it, put it into CAD on a Saturday morning, and on the Monday it was on the bike, and it's never changed. And yet some other areas of the bike are, more challenging and really have to work through solutions. But that was the one area that just happened. And I agree with you, it's a little bit 80s sci-fi. But I think it gives us something really, really unique. And personally, it's probably my favourite bit of the bike. So I appreciate the challenge from the gentleman that gave it to me.
And one final design now. The Manx R was actually easier to design than the Atlas. And on a superbike, the form naturally leads you to dramatic proportions. On an adventure bike, you've got a tall tank, low seat, and a lot of empty space. And you still have to achieve the same level of visual character while meeting functional demands that are non-negotiable. The Atlas customer needs the right tank size. The Manx R customer is open to have a conversation about those trade-offs.
Same language design is applied also for the Atlas bikes, which will come in sometime soon-ish. This year, right?
Yeah, absolutely. In a not too distant future. Yes and no. So look, when you've got 206 horsepower or 210, the world doesn't really notice the difference. So if we lose 2 horsepower because I've gone over the top with design, we have the discussion and go, you know what, that's okay. But with the Atlas, it's such a functionally led bike that it has to have the right size fuel tank. There's not a discussion, it has to have, because that's what that customer wants and needs. The customer of the Manx R is different. So it's much more functionally led. So in that way, it's much more of a challenge. So we talk about having dramatic proportions and dramatic design that gives the bike forward movement. And that's quite natural on a super bike because of the way the shape that it is. On an adventure style bike, you've got a low seat and a tall tank and high ground clearance. So you've got this quite, not awkward shape, but this shape to deal with, these proportions to deal with. So in many ways, it's more of a challenge
than the
superbike to get those basics in correct without compromising at all the functionality, because it can't be compromised because that's what the customer needs.
Fitting 206 horsepower and 130 Newton meters into a bike with that level of exterior cleanliness is no easy task. And before we talk about solutions, it's worth sharing this question I asked Brian.
How is Norton profiting or benefiting from TVS budget-friendly bikes? Because as we said, they produce a lot. Now, McDonald's does a hell lot of burgers too. Are they best in the world? I don't think so. So how is Norton going to benefit from TVS mass-producing bikes to Norton producing top-end premium bikes better than BMW or Ducati?
The synergies are incredible. With Norton, in terms of what we need to do from an engineering side, from a design side, the team is in place. Everybody knows what they need to do to make Norton a super premium product. At the same time, we've got TVS that has resources that are absolutely incredible. Incredible in terms of technology, the design and development technologies that they have, the facilities that they have, the test benches that they have, the laboratories that they have, and the supply base that they have. And the sheer power that when they sit down at a table with a supplier, the power that they wield to be able to get that supplier to react quickly, give us exactly what we want, is absolutely incredible.
So it's TVS buying power, those 15,000 bikes a day, what allows Norton to land Marzocchi, Brembo, Bosch, and BST on a brand new motorbike from a reborn brand. Sitting down to negotiate as Norton on your own is a very different conversation from sitting down with one of the world's biggest manufacturers behind you. The biggest technical challenge on the project, according to Brian, was very clear.
Oh, the biggest challenge, without a doubt, with such a compact bike, with such a big displacement engine, and all of the bodywork and design so tightly packed.
Yeah.
The biggest issue was for sure thermal, but it was thermal to get rid of the heat, but not have the heat come out of the bike towards the rider.
Okay.
Right. It's exhausting that thermal energy, but exhausting in a way that it's moving away from the rider and not towards the rider.
Okay.
And we have just a tremendous amount of work. The engineering team, together with the design team, the work that we've done globally, and with the good fortune that we can also test in India.
Yeah.
And it's hot most of the year, as well as all of the virtual testing that we did in the virtual CFD programming and in the climatic wind tunnel. So very close to the headquarters in Solihull, we have a facility with a climatic wind tunnel that we can go up to 40 degrees in the wind tunnel, which also has a dyno inside of the wind tunnel, and do all of our testing and validation between what we're seeing in the virtual world, what we're seeing in the physical world, get the virtual world tuned to what we're seeing physically, and then just start going through iterations inside the virtual world, getting it back to the physical world, validating it.
So those three openings beneath the tank and decorative. They are the result of months of back and forth between design and engineer, of iterations between the virtual and the physical world, until they found the solution that doesn't sacrifice a millimeter of the aesthetic. The suspension is a semi-active Marzocchi developed in collaboration with the team in Bologna. And the brakes are high pure brakes. The carbon wheels from BST on the Signature and Fast editions, and it comes with a Bosch, and it comes with a 6-axis IMU from Bosch, a 1200cc V4, a 72 degrees engine, which is, by the way, Norton's first to meet the Euro 5 Plus homologation. The previous models were using the MCVA process, which is only valid in the UK, and therefore limited massively their potential. But when it comes to electronics and features, Norton's philosophy is more than clear.
Does it come with a subscription system?
So the Norton Connect app at the beginning is free to use.
free to use
Yeah.
for every Norton
for all
owner.
the functions and features that the Norton Connect app offers.
And
And then in the future, it's a flexible platform. So we'll be constantly upgrading and bringing out more functions and features on the Connect app as we progress through the development.
And does that app work also as the platform that you use to update your bike, like software-wise?
Yeah, so it has software over-the-air update,
And it
OTA.
uses the app.
So the OTA then allows you to then update through the dashboard to do update features of the dashboard and other functions on the bike as well.
And is any plan, like as I said, we've got a lot of feedback, let's call it like that, on KTM giving you all the specs for 1,000 kilometers and then cutting them off?
No, we don't have any.
That was a clear no. I like that.
No, there's no functions and features that we're turning off and then making you subscribe to get back.
All right.
So everything that you're testing on the bikes here today are original equipment and remain original.
So if I buy a Manx R, the bike that I
turn your quick shifter on or off,
Yeah.
you don't have to pay us money after 1,000 kilometers.
But let's be honest, everything you've just heard sounds very good on paper. And the reality is that Norton still has some very significant challenges ahead that aren't resolved yet. The first is the dealers. Without a distribution network, there is no premium brand. And there is a precedent worth mentioning here. A couple of years back, we worked with TVS when they tried to bring their own bikes into the European market. But we still haven't seen those really in the streets. It seems like building a dealer network across Europe, it's harder than it looks, even for a group with the resources of TVS. At the time we filmed that interview, the distribution network wasn't yet finalized. They stated the goal was to exceed 200 dealers across UK, Europe, India, and the US. Ambitious, to say the least. And the global meeting happened only a few weeks ago. So we will soon know what kind of real-world network Norton is actually going to the market with. The second issue, or the second question, is reliability. Anyone who's followed this industry for any length of time knows what this means. A new motorcycle from a new, rebuilt from the ground up brand with technology developed in record time. Yeah, that's something, reliability is something that you prove with time and miles on the road, not in a launch in Sevilla. Ducati took years to shake off that reputation of beautiful bikes but troublesome. BMW had its own difficult chapters as well, and Honda right now is struggling with the CB1000 GT. Norton needs its first customers not to run into serious problems or issues, because in the age of social media, a recurring fall becomes global news within hours, and after everything those customers lived through during the garden era, the margin of error is practically zero.
How are you going to regain the trust, or what have you changed to tell people, hey, you're safe, you can buy your bike, we will ship it properly, not like before, you will have parts, a dealer network. What's Norton doing for that?
The amount of back-end infrastructure that the team has built inside of Norton in terms of customer service, developing the dealer network, making sure that we've got the parts portal, all of the back-end software, architecture and team in place is absolutely incredible what they've done inside of Norton. And it's about trust. People give it to you very freely once, and then you have to work very, very hard to get it back if you lose that trust. Exactly. There's it's the motorcycle industry in general. I can't think of a single brand that hasn't gone through a trust cycle other than maybe some of the Japanese.
Probably, but exceptions,
right?
I'd say.
And to get that trust back, it's about understanding that it's a journey, making sure that we've got all the pieces in place, in continuously working and improving, and of course having such a strong group company. The back end, they understand what it means to be able to supply parts, to be able to supply service, to take care of the customer. They're a company that has won JD Power more than once.
Yeah.
They know what it means to build to quality, and quality doesn't stop with just building the bike. Quality means quality of service to the customer and putting the customer at the center of everything.
With all that on the table, what's the long-term plan? This summer, Norton begins delivering in Europe, UK, India, the US, Australia, and Japan simultaneously, with the homologation for each market already sorted. Production target is around 8,000 units a year across the Manx R, Manx Atlas, and Atlas GT. But Simon's roadmap runs to 2030. He's already working on bikes for 2027, 28, and 29. So TVS investment doesn't buy 4 motorbikes, it buys a long-term platform and a very extensive catalog.
And people are saying, "Oh, have you waited 5 years for this?" No, I've waited 17 years for this, because it feels like at last that Norton's got the product and the ownership and the technology that it's always deserved, and it's back where it should be. It's not a sleeping giant anymore. It's going to become a real giant.
So yes, we can say that Norton is back, not with nostalgia, because by the way, they are not planning to do any kind of retro motorbike, but with engineering, a world-class team, and a transformed factory in Birmingham, in England, and of course with the backing of one of the largest motorcycle manufacturers in the world. What TVS has built in 5 years, the team, the platforms, the infrastructure, is something that you can't put together overnight. It's a long-term plan. And honestly, after seeing the mess they were in some years ago with Ghana, you can only be happy to see them supporting the brand or resurrecting the brand. But the real questions still don't have answers. Will the dealer network hold up? Will the first units go without any issue? Will the Manx R justify the starting price against competitors with far more track record behind them? Some of these questions, my colleague Martin Bauer can answer them. And in what I believe is the deepest, most profound, detailed review that I've seen of the Manx R, not only on paper, but across every online media that I've come across. So I will try to put that video online in English as well. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I see you very soon. Cheers. Thank you.